When we're in this human experience on this spiritual journey, it is not uncommon at all for us to feel lost and not know where to go and how to get back to ourselves. So that's what I'm going to be talking about today. So stay tuned. Come back. See you in a minute. Hello, I'm Dr. Rosie Kuhn. I can't tell you the number of times in my own life, but in lives of people that I know and people that I serve as a coach or therapist when I was doing therapy, where they had come to a place of feeling lost. They came to a place where life had no meaning or purpose. They didn't know what to do or where to go in their life. And some of this was just part of their growing time. So for instance, for me, when I was about 17, I had this total meltdown inside where nothing made sense. There was no meaning, and I didn't know where to find it. And I didn't have the kind of relationship with my family where I could get that kind of support from them. And therapy was not a big deal when I was in my teens, so that wasn't available. So I was really lost and alone. It happened again when I was in my 30s, when I broke up in a relationship. And this time I went down. And by that time, I had some of my own awareness, but also had some support where I knew how to do that. The third time, major time, was when I was 58 years old. And I was expecting some great awareness and a great possibility, a great new career to come. And I bottomed out. Everything shifted where nothing happened. And I lost a sense of reality. I was so afraid. I didn't know where to go or what to do. And it's windy, so hopefully the microphone is okay, but I'm going to sort of shade it if I can a little bit. So hopefully that'll help. So it's not uncommon for people just to be in life and go, wait, this doesn't make sense. Our consensus reality that I talk about all the time, the way that we learn to perceive the world, sometimes it just doesn't make sense. But we don't know how to find another way. We don't know where to go to get another perspective. And so we feel lost and alone. Sometimes, especially with the pandemic going on, the loss of jobs, the loss of freedom to move about, the loss of money or finances, the loss of people. Lots of people have died, gotten sick. Those things really create a sense of lostness, or where do I go, or how do I make sense of this, and how do I make sense of this from a spiritual perspective? And we've talked about that in the previous video in terms of being in the now, living in the now, and seeing that in this moment that's all there is. So that's one thing that we could do. But it seems much more. There's must be much more, because sometimes it feels so desperate and despairing and alone. So one thing to know is, if we're looking at three things to think about, one is that you're not alone, that this process of being human, in this human experience, in this human body, in this spiritual dynamic, is what every one of us is going through. You are not alone. In fact, you could probably ask any number of people what their experience is. Like, have you ever felt lost? Have you ever felt alone? Have you ever felt like nobody was there for you? Have you ever felt like how you were being in the world just didn't make sense? And most likely you're going to find people to say, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. So I've found that true, and especially because I really believe in the support of 12-step programs, that, whether you're addicted to a substance or to a behavior, or you just need some support, there are 12-step programs out there to support you in this. And at the bottom, at the foundation of every single one of those 12-step programs is this experience, this truth of, we hit bottom sometimes where it doesn't make sense, we don't know where to go, and we don't know how to do this. So number one, because you're a human being, you don't know how to do this. I have about 4 number ones. So you don't know how to do this because nobody does. We have books that somebody else read and wrote, but if you look at that, it may work for you, it may not, but you won't know until you actually read something or talk to somebody and say, what's true for me? What's true? What's my truth? And in that, you begin to cultivate a sense of empowerment versus that place of feeling like a victim and lost and nothing makes sense. So, number one, know that you are not supposed to know how to do this. In fact, Joseph Campbell says that if you're entering into the woods, the darkest place is the beginning of your journey, which sounds really like, what? But I totally get it because I've been there so many times. In the spiritual world, sometimes it's called a spiritual immersion or emergence process, a spiritual emergence process, where we're starting to go on this path into places that we find very, very uncomfortable, that we're not supposed to talk about, we're not supposed to know about, and we're not supposed to deal with. But if we don't, we go crazy and we get sick and we get very unhappy and depressed. So we have a choice. We can either begin to walk the journey through this dark forest to the light, or we can keep avoiding it. That's what a lot of us do. Sometimes we can avoid it through substance abuse or through any number of things, gaming, Facebook, all of those things that distract us from feeling our true feelings and being with what's true, really, truly ours to be with. It's what we tend to do. And at some point we go, okay, I got to get help. I got to get support. So if you're at the place where you're wanting or needing support, there's therapists, there's spiritual guides and directors, there's spiritual coaches, there's ministers and priests that are there to support and help you. Finding that right person for you is really important. That just any priest or any therapist may not be the right fit for you. They may not seem to be able to hear you. And what I want for you is to get that person that can listen and hear you and be your thinking partner and support and empower you in this process. I was speaking with a client this morning who is going through a relationship with her partner who happens to be alcoholic. Now, she has been in a relationship with alcoholics for a very long time. And so there's this patterning that she's in. And right now she's really desperate. She's got some really bad things that are going on for her. And she doesn't want to leave, and I totally understand that. But I know and understand that because I myself have been in those places, in those kinds of relationships, in those kinds of circumstances where I didn't want to leave, but it's so painful to stay, I have to go, but I don't know what to do because it gets scary and I feel lost. So that's how she feels. And so I can say to her, I totally get it. I totally know what you're going through. And she still has to walk her own talk. I can't give her advice. I can't tell her what to do. She has to do that for herself. That's a second thing that's really important, is to know that people can tell you what to do. You can read, you can listen to podcasts, but you yourself have to take the steps. You have to empower yourself to experience the experience you're in. This is the self-revelation. This is the self-knowing that occurs. This is the self-identification. This is the self-awareness that you create. This is the cultivation of courage and strength within yourself. These are what you came here to experience, not to, sidestep and avoid and ignore. Somehow we think that's what we're supposed to do, but we're really here to cultivate strength and courage so that we can be the fullest expression of ourselves, even in these deepest, darkest times where we feel lost and we don't feel a sense of purpose. There's this amazing experience in there. That's why we watch movies all the time of other people having those experiences, right? It's like, wow, that's amazing. I wish I could do that. It's like, yeah, well, here you are, and you'll be doing that most likely at some point in your life, because we're all here to learn who we are, to be our fullest self, to be our most expanded self, even in the darkest, scariest times and the most empty times. One of my clients, I'll call him Harold, he called it the abyssness. And he was 37, and he's like, I'm in this abyssness. And we just kind of swooned in the beauty of the truth of that moment of going, yes, that's a word that makes perfect sense, the abyssness of this moment. So I really want to support you and encourage you. I'm just looking for whatever else I was going to say about that, but can't find what I was going to say about that. But I really want to support you in recognizing, acknowledging those moments that are the scariest, where you might be right now. It might be that you're feeling suicidal. It might be like that you feel that what's the point of life? It might be that relationships aren't working for you the way that you wanted. Each of us has our own place of that dilemma, that challenge. My nose is dripping. And so I want to support you and empower you to know that you are not alone in that. The fourth or fifth thing, I was on my way out, but from my perspective, we have guides and we have protectors, whether we see them as angels or people that used to be our parents or people that loved us and are on the other side, gods, goddesses, saints. There are people on the other side who love us, who are guiding us and are protecting us. And we just have to be open to those guidances, the protection, and what they're offering to us. What that means is, and I said this to my client this morning, I asked her, do you pray? And she said, yeah, I pray when it gets really tough. I said, well, I want you to pray to receive the guidance, but more importantly, to hear the guidance, to hear it. And then put into practice what you're being asked to practice. Put into practice what you're being given. Those are really, really hard things to do. And that's what a lot of people say. They go, it's too hard. It's like, okay, if it's too hard, don't do it. It's okay. There's no wrong. There's no timing. There's no badness of all this. There's just be with what you can be with. That's it. All right. I'll leave you with that today. I would love to have you leave me a comment, if you would, of what has been some dark times for you, if you're willing to share those with me below. I would love to hear and support you through that, just in your knowing and my knowing. I'd also love it if you would subscribe to this channel and like it if you find it of value, because then I know that what I'm saying makes a difference for people and it makes a difference for you. All right, bye for now.